about
You good?
that.
No
Yeah.
worries, man. I don't know why it let me join that out of nowhere.
Yeah, after a little bit of Zoom information, we got this covered. Well, this is the official start to episode 12 of an Untold narrative. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man.
Let everybody know who we have.
I'm Mike. I'm in Portland. I'm a footwear designer and customizer, and just overall sneakerhead, man.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. Our relationship is purely Instagram based. I know we had
Yep.
a brief opportunity to connect when I was in Portland last, and then I bailed on you. So
That
that's
happens,
totally
bro.
that's on me. But no, it's been fun over the years. Obviously, we back then it was much easier to meet and kind of connect with new up and coming designers, in my opinion, just because it was more organic and
Yeah.
the community was wicked small. And to my recollection, you were like one of the first people I think that we just like kind of just cross communicated. I think
Yeah, man. I was just trying to reach out to everybody at that time. You guys, Chris, Dixon, Dominic, Dina, everybody, just shooting everybody a message at that time, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a footwear designer. Where are you originally from?
I was born in Jacksonville, North Carolina, but I lived in a military family, so we moved around a ton. But I've been in Oregon now since the third grade, so it's pretty much a new home. So
Oh, okay.
um, I'm out here in Beaverton. So
Did you watch Chris Dixon's episode?
I did, yeah.
You just started basically the same way. You're like, I'm from North Carolina. I was a military family. We moved around
I
a
know,
lot.
bro. And then I bumped into him in the neighborhood not that long ago and found out we're neighbors too. And I was like, dude, this is wild.
Well, and honestly, like I would have never met either one of you two if it wasn't like,
Right.
which is just bizarre. It just shows you how small the world really is.
Yeah, man.
So you've been living in Oregon obviously for the majority of your life.
Yeah.
So what was I know nothing about being in like a military family besides like was it your father, your mother?
It was my dad. He was in the Marines. It wasn't that bad. It's just a lot of moving, but we settled here when I was in third grade, so it's like plenty of time to like kind of establish new relationships and stuff. So it really wasn't that bad. Could have been a lot worse, if it had been more moving throughout like my teenage years or preteen years. Could be real bad, but honestly, it was fine.
Yeah, I got you. What's like what do you think is like the biggest difference of growing up in a military household versus, because obviously you grew up in third grade plus and like
Yeah,
you obviously friends who didn't live in that environment. What's like the
right.
biggest difference for people? Because I don't even know.
Honestly, I think probably it's just like a lot of discipline and just like because when you live on base, things are just like set to a standard for everybody. So you either meet those standards or you don't. So just kind of a discipline thing, kind of just trying to stay the straight line. I've been out of it for a while, so obviously gotten kind of straight off that path a little bit. But yeah, I would just say discipline, man, and just like fine details and small stuff like that. Because even we lived in a place in California where we didn't even have any grass, just sand, and they want you to rake it a certain way, man. So it's like it's
Okay.
stuff like that. So it's
A
little
little bit
stuff.
of accountability there.
Right.
I'm sure like there's little nuggets of that have translated to like your professional,
Oh, for sure,
yeah.
for sure. Good and bad sometimes, man.
So I know you from the footwear design side, and we'll get into that. But like, how did you discover that you wanted to pursue design in general, right? I mean, because it seems like, and I believe through a little bit of digging online, that you have an industrial design degree.
I do, yeah.
So most people who do industrial design or have a bachelor's in it, like randomly or have a crazy story. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. So when we moved here young, like I was really, really young and like I needed something to like kind of just establish like a community. So sports was that for me. And one of my coaches was working on like highlight videos and stuff at the time. And so like I kind of just like latched on to just kind of like watching his stuff. And this was like either really early YouTube or it was just him sharing like videos with me of his work. And so like I just fell in love with that. He shared me I think probably a pirated copy of the Creative Crowd at that time. So he let me use it, and I had no clue what I was doing with it. But all I knew is that I liked shoes at that time, and so like I had been buying them a lot even that young. So I started to use them just like on Photoshop, just to like kind of draw over top of them, like make colorways and stuff. Um, I didn't know what I was doing, so it was whatever. It was really bad, but it was just exposure to that really early on. And then kind of just a typical teen guy route, just kind of went with sports, followed that a while, but like my interest for shoes and design was still there a little bit. But then in high school, it got a little more serious. I was taking like graphic design classes, still playing sports, but sports was my kind of drive there still. But then I had a really unfortunate injury in high school, and I had actually had a skull fracture, and I had to have 14-hour skull surgery on that. So
Yeesh.
that kind of so that kind of took
What
sports
sport
away
were you
from me.
playing?
So I was doing track at the time, because my
Whoa.
coach was, yeah. So I was like, yo, I don't want anything to do with this, right? Like I can't run a fever, so it's like I don't want to do anything with this. Like I don't belong here. And they were like, come here, just work on footwork or whatever. Because at the time I was deep into football and basketball, but they were like, come do track, come work on your footwork or whatever. Well, I was throwing discus on the side, and it was just like a rainy day, and some girl next to me just like kind of let her go sideways, man. And yeah, dude, just super unfortunate. Just an accident, bro. But
Your
so I had to
disc
go.
slipped and nailed
Yeah,
you in the dome?
yeah, bro. If I had just gotten a haircut recently, I would show you the scar. But so I had to go and have emergency surgery for that. It was like 14 hours. So that took football off the plate for me. And so I was like, yo, I need to find something to like stay competitive and like stay connected to my friends. So
Wait, hold on. I'm like not gonna go over this story. This is a wild change of life.
yeah, man, it happened like pretty much like obviously overnight. So it's like I had to find
Do
something to
you
latch
do you
onto, and
remember
luckily,
like anything? Like
yeah, man. So luckily, like obviously, when it happened, I blacked out right away. But kind of a crazy story. The school didn't end up calling an ambulance at all, so I had to actually ride in the car with my mom to the hospital. So that was interesting. Yeah, it was a whole thing. But so yeah, and actually, we got to a smaller hospital that was nearby, and they determined that like it was too bad, so I had to go to OHSU. I had to like take another ambulance downtown, have
holy
surgery, and then I was
cow.
there a couple of days. Yeah, man. Um, and then just did physical therapy and stuff, and then
What
honestly, like,
what
is it
just out of curiosity, you just mentioned physical therapy. Like what kind of physical therapy do they do for like skull surgery? Obviously, like physical therapy, like when you break an ankle or
right,
you do something to your elbow or your wrist or whatever, that
right?
you could do normal exercise. What do you do for something that's in your
So
head?
honestly, it wasn't that bad. It was just that like walking was a little bit tough at first because it was like I had some nerve damage, so it was like not too bad. In fact, like I couldn't walk at all, but just in the fact that like when I would take a step, it would be weird. I couldn't really feel it at first, and so I just had to like kind of rehab that back. And so it was just kind of sensory stuff like that. But since then, like,
What?
yeah, man. But since then, it's been like really not like I don't even think about it anymore. Like it's an afterthought for me, but like just a reminder of the
What year in
past.
high school was that?
I was a sophomore at that time.
Holy cow. How long were you
Yeah.
like out of school and stuff like that?
So I was out of school for like a month afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I went back after that, but it was not too long because track season happened right before summer. So then I got that whole summer, and then I came back next year. It's pretty fun.
Okay. Well, that is a wild story.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
man.
I was just like, I don't think I've ever heard of somebody who had skull surgery. So,
Yeah, man. But I mean, luckily, like in a roundabout way, like it pushed me the right direction. Like
because
obviously,
you're before I cut you off, you were
no, no,
saying,
no, no, not at all, man. It's everyone loves sports and stuff, but it's like we don't all go pro, so you got to find what your real passion is and go for it, man. And so that kind of forced me to go that way, and uh, I just ended up like, funny enough, like for a couple of years, I went to Oregon State. I went for a year to do graphic design because no one at my school had done footwear in my high school, so um, that was what I thought was right. So I went and did graphic design for a year at Oregon State, and
did you
our
know that
graphic.
like footwear design was a thing back then?
No, so I really didn't, honestly. Like, I was just in graphic design, just like drawing shoes that existed,
Oh,
just
okay.
like, whatever, painting stuff. So I didn't really know it was a thing. No one at my school knew what it was. I just knew that like I wanted to make shoes eventually. So they told me, they were like, go do graphic and apparel design, like they'll maybe those are parallel, you'll get there. So then after a year, I was doing my own research online because I just felt like I was kind of wasting my time. Like, I was making clothes and bags and stuff, and that was valuable, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Um, so I was doing my own research online, and I was just on like Behance or Core 77, something like that. And I found Dominic's work, Dominic Dina, and I just shot him a message, and I was like, man, I really like, your stuff. I like what you're working on, like where do you go to school? Like, what are you going to school for? And he pretty much told me right away that like I needed to be in industrial design. Um, and so I kind of worked on trying to get a transfer to somewhere. And then I ended up meeting someone at Nike who was kind of gracious enough to guide me into an industrial design program. So ended up going to the Art Institute of Portland.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so I
So
did my stuff there.
before you go into that, so
Yeah,
for reference, Dominic Dina like was one of the first, in my opinion, to really like. I was like,
he's
holy
an
cow,
OG,
this
bro.
guy has incredible work, right? On the gram, right? Like he was,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me, he
yeah,
was like one of the first who was like had a
yeah,
like a
bro.
gaining follow a rapid following.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and then all of a sudden he just disappeared. Do you keep in touch with him? Like I've
I
never.
do. Yeah, 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 yeah. I talk to him a lot.
Where does he work?
He's at Reebok right now.
Oh no shit. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's still out there. He did. Oh, sorry, not Reebok. He's at Puma. He just left Reebok. So when he went, I know what you're talking about. He went kind of silent, and then even recently, he like deleted all of his social media. But before he was working at Reebok, he was working on some stuff that he just couldn't share, so he just kind of went quiet. And then he posted one or two sketches. I convinced him to get an iPad Pro. He posted like one or two sketches, and then I think Jeremy Salia at Puma like swooped him up and was like, "Yeah, we're taking that guy." So like that happened for him super quick,
So
and
he's on
so
there. He's on Jeremy's basketball crew.
yeah, and so
Gotcha.
he's just laying low now. But yeah, he's a
That
good
that's
dude, man.
awesome. Yeah, Jeremy's the homie. So
Yeah,
he
dude.
definitely got somebody talented. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, he like I remember he was always he was like posting work so often, and it was so good. It was like
he's a killer, man. I love his stuff so much, man. I think I have a whole Behance folder just for his stuff.
well, Dominic, if you ever watch this, shout out. Thanks for inspiring a lot of humans on this planet in early
For real,
Instagram days.
for real.
But anyway, so you went to Art Center in Portland.
Yeah, into the Art Institute.
Or Institute. I get
You
those
could
two confused all the time. Uh,
technically you can call it whatever you want since it's closed now, but it's fine. Uh, that's
oh,
the whole thing, man. That's the
okay.
whole thing on this side. Uh, but yeah, man. So I went there. And I just started doing footwear, and I met Larry Selbiger. I don't know if you know of him or if you've seen his work online. You could look it up on Behance or any website. Pretty much, he's like an OG. OG. He's worked at like Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, Puma. He worked with like E. Scott and Eric Ivar and all them.
Yep.
So, um, he was teaching there luckily when I went there, and he was teaching design sketching, and so that was pretty much when I like first fell in love with sketching, because like I was going to that school because I had to, that's like what they said I had to do, and so I was just there. um but he really inspired me to like get into sketching and like exploring and stuff, and then I was lucky enough to take footwear design with him, and we kind of did a co-op with Under Armour because their office was in Portland as well.
Yep.
So we did like a little basketball design thing with them, and it was good, and that was kind of the start for where I like really pushed into footwear design. And then, funny enough, Dominic comes around again in this summer, and he sends me a message and says, "Hey man, did you see this internship in your own city?" And I said, "No, I didn't, man." And I applied to it, and then I ended up getting an internship like 2 days later.
What was
So
that internship?
it was Olukai. It's a smaller Hawaiian company down here. You might have seen. I posted some stuff on Instagram with them. I've done, I think, 4 or 5 contracts with them now.
Cool. And so we jumped all over the map, but like what year? I don't know if you mind sharing. How old are you? What year did you get the internship? Like just to put it in the
I'm
frame.
I'm 26 now. I got my internship during my junior year of college.
Okay.
So, and then pretty much I did a contract with them every year for since now and then. But you know, that's just all I've been working on lately. But that was how I got my start, and then I've done a couple other footwear design contracts, and then just a bunch of custom work since then.
Yeah. So we'll get into the custom side of the of what you've been doing. I guess let's if you share to what you can share, but like
For sure.
what is like a contract kind of consist of? Like, you know, do you set the parameters? Do they set the parameters? Is it for like a one-off? Is it like, are you on a retainer with them? Like, you know, if you could speak, because I feel like people are interested, for those that aren't freelancing, you know, quote unquote freelancing
Right.
with a company, like what are some of the details? Like, how do you hash that out?
I mean, honestly, I was lucky enough to have like a couple of bosses from Olukai who had left since I joined, and so they were able to kind of help steer me. But like to point to what you're saying, it was largely a mystery for me too, man. Like when they were like, "Do you want to do a contract for us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever that. Yeah, for sure, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
send it over." You know. So I mean, but like, so obviously it gets easier the more you do it, but you just kind of have to. I guess the important thing, really, I've been blessed enough to have like really good PLMs who are giving me like really good briefs. So that's really important, is to just find a good brief, kind of hash out the timeline that they're looking for, how much work they need done in that timeline, and then like kind of what they're expecting in terms of how everyone works. Because not everyone works the same. For me, I'm like really sketch heavy. Some people are really model heavy. Some people are just like, I like to make prototypes. So just kind of, you have to find the vibe with them and see what they want. You know, what their marketing
But
responds
that
to,
so
what they respond to.
the first contract that you ever did with them, or
Yeah,
did you work for them previously?
I worked. So I was the intern with them, and then I contracted afterwards.
I got you. So you already had that base set up of like, you understood what the projects kind of like, how they scoped out, like the different
Yeah,
steps that you would need to do and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. How do you?
That was really helpful, man, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, how do you set like a price for yourself?
Dude, that was the toughest thing, and even like to this day, like I'm working on a contract right now with an NBA guy making a lifestyle shoe, and like I asked probably like 30 people, like, what do I charge this guy? Like how much work is this going to take me? How long? Like, it's a huge mystery, but like I don't know. To me, like I kind of have a breakdown of what I charge, like hourly or for a project, depending how long things are going to take,
Yep.
or just like even certain parts of it, because not everything is, not all footwear design is you're making brand new stuff. Sometimes people hit you up and they're like, "Man, I really like the way you do stuff on Photoshop. Please render our designer sketches." And so
Totally.
that's all you do. So so it's just a different price breakdown for that and everything. So it's just like, I don't know, for anyone just starting out, I would just like kind of, think what you would value your time hourly, and then base it out hourly. Even if you're going for a project, keep that in mind, how much time it's going to take you, because like,
Have you ever said something and then somebody was like, "Ooh, that's too high," and then immediately regretted it?
no, hopefully not. I mean, I, like I replied to some contract offers and not gotten a reply, so maybe, but like, uh, but I've definitely have like had the hesitation while writing the email, like, ooh, I'm about to hit send. Like, is my time really worth this much? But also, I've done just a gross amount of work for not enough money, so it's not as bad as that. So I would definitely say, like,
Well, you got to
value
start
your
somewhere.
time.
You got to learn. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I'm a big believer across the board of doing stuff for free, in
dude.
order to just gain the knowledge, gain the experience, gain different opportunities, meet somebody new who's going to give you.
Yo, I have done, I think, probably 10 NFL players cleats now, and like I still probably have only made, like maybe $100 lifetime in terms of like customs overall, just because I've done so much stuff for free in terms of like, oh, hey, I want to do it for this guy. Or for me, what's the worst thing is just a sucker for sports. So I'm always like, yo, I really like that guy. I want to do it for
I'll
free.
hook it up.
And then, yeah, exactly. And that is the worst, because they do not be hooking it up for you, man. So like you have to like make sure you take care of yourself. But like I've done, I feel you on the doing free work. Like you have to get yourself opportunities however you can.
So you
But
definitely, your footwear design contract stuff, you base it on an hourly versus a per project.
Yeah, I mean, especially it just depends on like how long things are going to take. Like I did a contract with Olokai not too long ago where we were just kind of exploring a concept, so it was going to be more of like a 2-3 month process. So we just based it on like a project instead of an hourly because it
Yeah,
could get real spendy, doing 3 months of
totally.
hourly
Yeah, yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Especially with conceptual stuff, because who's going to tell you how many hours you spent?
Exactly. And that's the thing too, that stuff is like it kind of helps avoid like kind of having to go back and forth of like any questions of did this take you that long? Were you messing around? Anything like that. So that's nice. But on shorter things it's definitely nice to go by hourly. Just because, like maybe I can crank out a Photoshop render in 4 hours, but like it's only because I've been doing it forever. So
You say
definitely
forever.
make
You're
it when
26 years old.
I know.
You
Dude, I started at 12.
well, yeah.
I
I
did.
mean, you definitely had an earlier start than most, I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you technically work for yourself? Like you're your own business?
Yeah, right. I mean, I would love to work for someone else, but right now, yeah, working for myself right now. Yeah.
Well, anybody watching who's looking for somebody, but no. But have you? So you did the one. You started off doing an internship for them, but since then, have you worked full time for anybody else, or you've just been taking jobs?
I've just been taking contracts and then just doing custom work at the same time. I've just been lucky enough to be able to like jump between both of them. Eventually that's going to slow down stuff. So that's why I'm like looking, trying to get full time, but luckily I've been able to make it right now.
How do you find new work?
Uh, it's tough, man. Like honestly, a lot of word of mouth stuff. Like a lot of my old bosses will know a person that needs stuff done, or like Olukai will be like, hey, well, we know someone who's looking for something done in a different company that we don't have any help for them, and then they'll refer my name. So that's kind of how it's been, and luckily I've had people who will tote my flag for me. But it is tough to find stuff, especially right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of conversations with one, not only a lot of people who have been furloughed or unemployed, but also like an entire graduating class who's out of work, right?
Yeah, man.
And
I
and
can't. Yeah, that stuff.
it's a point in history where it's just you sit back and you're just thankful for what you got and what's been given so far, and you just hope for the best and that we can get out of this thing. But it sounds like so far so good for you
Yeah,
overall.
hanging in there so far. Yeah.
So you graduated what year from Art Institute?
2017.
Okay. So you've been quote unquote freelancing, let's call it, for 3+ years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn. It's a while.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's both nice and the most stressful thing I've ever done. So
Because you have
it's
you work at your own pace. You do.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's nice to control your own pace, but it's also like nice to be like I've done the internship thing where it's full time, and it's nice to be in an office where you're like the accountability is being in the office. Um, because like every creative person knows some days you're just like you just don't feel like it.
Don't
And
have.
so yeah. And so it's like, you'll be at home and you're like, oh man, I got a tech pack that's due in 2 days. And like, if you're not feeling it that day, like you'll regret it the next day. So like,
And then you're
it's tough.
rushing, and it's probably not your best work after that.
It's tough. I will say though, I think that like having to do contract early on and kind of like build my own footing here, I think does pay dues when I do get into situations where it's full time and stuff, because I do hold myself extra accountable because I'm always worried about being hitting the deadline, and always like, because when you work contract, if you don't get the work done you don't get paid for it. So
It's
like
pretty
you got to get
simple.
it done.
It
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah,
is
straightforward. Yeah.
clear cut.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you've hinted at it. How do you get into doing custom cleats for NFL players, right? I think to me it's with this whole podcast and YouTube series that I'm trying to do, it's not even just about, obviously, like I know a lot of footwear designers by trade, but to me you're unique in the fact that you not only do really great footwear design, but you also do custom cleats.
Yeah, man. I honestly, if it weren't for like doing custom cleats, like I think my footwear design would struggle and vice versa. But I mean, I got started into it like we were talking about earlier when I got forced out of football. One of my buddies his parents worked at Nike, and so he always had kind of an excess of cleats, you know. And so one day I literally just like stole a pair from his house and just like didn't tell him. And so one of my buddies at the time was a little older than me. He was customizing. He was doing more of a decon recon thing, like swapping out materials and stuff. And so he just kind of pushed me over the edge. He was like, "Bro, do it." He's like, you know, you're artistic and everything. You'll figure it out. Whatever. You'll make it happen or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I was like, okay. So the very first pair I did all in one day in like 4 hours, which was just terrible. And I brought them back and I gave them to the kid, and he wore them the next day, and they like fell apart. And I was just like horrified, like, oh no, like I'll never do this again. I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, this is terrible. It's the worst thing. And then my buddy was like, yo, I mean, you did kind of start with cleats, which are the worst thing to start with, you know, like.
Is that what they say?
I mean, yeah, I would say personally now I've been doing it like almost 6 years now. I started in 2014. It's either cleats or foam posits, man. Like just the prep and work on those are just terrible. So it's like I
Well,
enjoy doing them because they're open canvas, you know, but also you pay the price for that. So
what's the most challenging part about them?
I mean, for me, like especially with the NFL guys, it's just like the durability, you know, because they, you know, it's a different field out there than it is high school players, you know, and it's just more friction, it's more force, it's bigger guys, you know. These good guys get stepped on by 300-pound linemen, you know. That's when you find out if your paint holds up or not. So it's like you have to really prep, do your sanding, do everything, man. Like, but
So is it
it's
just
definitely a grind.
it's more layers of paint, or is it more like process based, or?
It's definitely a process, I'd say, man. It's definitely the prep. Like the longer you spend prepping it, the more you'll see. Like I got pretty lucky last year. I did a pair of cleats for Micah Hyde on the Bills. I'm not sure if you've seen other ones that had the dog tags on them.
No,
Um,
that's what that project specifically was like. I was like, oh shit, that is
yeah, bro.
legit.
To this day, I think that was probably like the best pair I've ever done. And like, I spent, I want to say like 3 or 4 days prepping those. I even had my buddy doing it next to me because I was like, you do this one while I do this one. Cause I knew that I wanted to do it. And we got lucky enough and it lasted him 7 weeks, like game and practice, which is the most unheard of thing I've ever heard of. Like
Seems bizarre.
even it was super wild, man. And I have no clue. Like to my knowledge, I didn't do anything differently. I just did it harder or whatever. So it was like since then I've just been in a really good groove with those cleats, and like those guys have given me like a good opportunity because I have like 3 or 4 guys on their defense that just kind of shuffle back and forth, and
When
they're kind of.
when you talk about prepping, what does that exactly mean? Because I've never done it, right? So I have no idea.
Yeah, so like every like cleat or foam pot, any shoe honestly comes with like a stock finish on it, you know, it's like
Mhm.
a top coat. So for like most shoes, you can just use acetone or nail polish remover to remove it if it's like a material, if it's like leather or whatever. But with the foam posits and the cleats and stuff, like they're that composite material or the synthetic or whatever. So you can't really do anything with them in terms of like trying to like use acetone to open up pores or anything because there just aren't any. So you just have to like sand it really tough and then just like I use this stuff that you're supposed to use for like automotive stuff. It's like to help your paint stick when stuff gets hot. Um, and so I just kind of go at it that way and just try to create like as much friction as I can and get a lot of surface tension and just try to like rough it up. Honestly, like it looks really destructive when you're doing it. And like, I've definitely had some panic attacks where I'm like, man, I messed this up. There's no turning back. But like,
You like sand
it
way too far or too hard?
yeah, dude, I've done some 11s. Like, I'm not sure if are you a basketball fan?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just like a general average fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did some stuff for Kyle Wilcher. He was playing at Gonzaga at the time. I took some of his
Okay.
11s and I was like, yeah, I'll paint the patent leather, man. It'll be no problem. And then I just like sanded them way too much and like put a hole in them pretty much.
Oh shit.
And so I had to replace those obviously. And he wears like a size 18, man. And that was just a headache.
So
Like,
you have to find another pair of 18s?
yeah. And then find a last to get it back onto the sole, you know? So yeah, bro. That was
So you
it,
lost
dude.
money?
Oh, I lost so much money on that, man. And then the worst thing too, I'll send it to you after this, was like the next week he was on the cover of ESPN, like in the game that I was supposed to do those shoes for. So if I had just like not messed it up, you know,
They would
it
have
would
been
have
your
been
shoes.
so great. Yeah, it would have been so great. But
Oh
you know,
shit.
yeah, that's where I learned a lesson about like biting off too much, you know.
That's wild.
Yeah, man.
So, all right. we'll talk specifically NFL here, right? Like, how did you get in contact with Micah Hyde, for example? Like, to me, he's like, I would not a household name, but he's definitely up there in terms of talent on defensive backs and
No, for sure, for
top
sure.
10 probably.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. Their safety tandem is probably, I mean, they're top two or three, in my opinion, are the best one. Obviously, I have some bias, especially because, like, so the way I got started was, um, like, when I got to Oregon State, I was obviously a big fan of the football team. And I had just, like, had some football players in my class, and Jordan Poyer was in one of my classes. And I just kind of linked up with him, and we just kind of built up a friendship. And then, like, he went on and got drafted, and I did my college thing. And so it's kind of like we went our separate ways. But then when he was with Cleveland, I had done my friend's cleats one or two times, and so I shot him a text, and I was like, "Yo, send me some cleats. I know you don't pay for them anyways, so just let me have them, you know." And so he was like, "Okay, cool." And so I did them, and they were trash, but like it was fine. And he wore them for me anyways, and they ended up on ESPN. And so then and so then basically by word of mouth it spread because he got me. I want to say the next guy I did was Sean Drone. He played with the Niners at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was on Monday Night Football, and he scored two or three times wearing my cleats, and they were like on TV, and that was like huge for me. Like that was like, oh my god, I made it, this kind of thing, you know. And
Yo, what
like,
does that feeling feel like? That's got to be wild.
dude, it was pretty nuts. Like at first, like I was like, what's crazy is at the time I had a torn ACL, so I couldn't even move. I was like yelling at my sister, like, "Yo, grab the phone, take a picture of the TV. I don't even care if it's crap. Like, take a picture. I don't care." And so like she's just like running around the room doing it for me. And but like, yeah, man, it was really crazy. And then like he was really like super kind to me in terms of like in the post game when people were asking him about it and stuff. He was like telling people, you know, "Oh, I got him done by my friend Mike. You know, you should go see him," because not everyone does that, honestly. Like
Yeah, they don't
most,
have to.
exactly, and they feel like they why should they? You know, so when they go that extra mile, like it's really big for me, and so like I really appreciated him doing that. And then the Oregonian wrote an article about it, and it was like they were really cool to me. So it just kind of spread from there, and then I got to Micah through Jordan. Obviously, last year we did. Um, Charity cleats for My Cause My Cleats.
Yep, I saw
Um,
that.
yeah. So last year was my second year doing it. The very first year I did Micah and Jordan's, and they were doing Camp Good Hope for Buffalo, and then Imagine for Youth. I think Micah was doing Imagine for Youth. Yeah. So we did those, and those went really well. And so we were just going to re-up and do it again this year. So I ended up doing Jordan's, and then I got Levi Wallace, who was a rookie. I ended up doing his ALS cleats, which were the ones with the fishing pole on the side, or the fishing lure swoosh. And then those are the ones that ended up getting auctioned off at the Super Bowl last year.
That's
During
wild.
Yeah, dude. So they did a whole week experience, and people were like bidding on it the whole week. Um, I want to say we cleared like I want to say we cleared $2,000, but I'm not sure.
That's
I can't be
awesome.
positive. Yeah, I don't know what the final number was at. On like the last day, it was like 1895 or something like that. But I think it ended up over 2,000.
So you said earlier that you haven't made money on these cleats, and like to me that doesn't make much sense.
So like,
These guys make like 1% of the top 1% in America. You realize that, right?
yeah, and the thing is like they realize that as well. And this is not speaking for all of them because overwhelmingly, I've had a great experience with the NFL athletes, even better experience with the NCAA guys because they can relate more to
Totally.
being like a startup, you know. But some guys I feel just, you know, they lose context on what things really cost when they make $17 million a year, you know, so they don't really know, you know, what 30 hours worth of time really is worth, you know. So a couple times I've left it up to them and tried to be like forthcoming and be like, "Hey man, I'm gonna buy." So like usually what happens is they give me money and I go buy their cleats because it's easier than waiting for shipping.
Okay,
um
that makes sense.
so I go and do that, and then but with Micah, like last year we had a whole run where we did 4 or 5 um pairs in like 4 or 5 weeks, so everything was super rushed and like tight on deadline and everything. um but timelines sometimes get messed up and stuff like that happens, and so it ended up just being that like I didn't get compensated for pretty much any of that work really. And so things just kind of went south and it just didn't really go that great. So that was one bad experience I've had with that. And it's just, some people just they don't have really their perspective on what it is. But um, I still got, we'll still work together in the future. It's just kind of a blip and just kind of an understanding where I need to be more forthcoming about how much things cost.
Yeah.
And he needs to be a more understanding of how much time we're taking. But it's all good now. It was a good learning lesson for me, honestly, because
Right. I
like,
mean, you got to go through that process to really understand, people aren't going to
exactly.
follow up with you.
And what I learned too was that like no one's gonna value your time like you do, and also by doing something like that, that's me undercutting my own industry, because it's then other people will expect that from the next kid who's coming up.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike did it for free, you should do it for free, and that's not, nobody wants that. So
Right.
that's when I learned that lesson right
So
there about
moving, let
like
me ask you a
pricing
question,
work.
like moving forward, like if this season happens, for example,
Yeah, yeah.
do you have like a set price, or are you going to leave it up to them again?
No, I mean, I have a pretty set price. Like there's certain guys who I like work under different conditions with just because we work under different things. Like Jordan, I've
Sure.
known him a while. So, we, our compensation works differently. Um, but like, it sort of just depends what you're looking for, honestly. If it's stuff like charity, I don't mind doing stuff where I'll like donate whatever you paid me to your charity, or, or you pay me twice what your charity is and I'll keep it and donate the other half, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with that. It just really is a work base. Like how much work do you need? Like if you want to do a thing where like if you're a guy like Mosh who does a pair of cleats with Stefan Diggs every single week, that's you have to pay to keep a guy who's that busy on your retainer every single week.
No kidding, right?
So yeah, so it's like that can get spendy, man. So it's like it really just depends. There's certain stuff that like there's a thing I want to do for all four of their DBs, like both corners and both safeties, like as a 4-pair kind of combo, like a pack thing.
That'd be sick.
And I've offered to do that for like a discounted rate, obviously, because partially it's me being selfish wanting to do that. But it's just kind of a case by case basis. It's hard to put like a price on what is, my custom worth. It just depends what you want. And I don't really want to stiff anyone out of their work either if they just want their mom's name on the side
No,
or
but this
whatever.
this stuff is really good. It's talent based. It takes a lot of time, and it's
No doubt.
holding up on the worst conditions, right? So it's like
Yeah.
there's clearly a lot of value that goes into something like this.
Right.
So hopefully things work out better in the future for you.
I got
Um,
a good feeling they'll work out, man. It'll be all right.
okay.
It'll be all right.
I mean, but I think that must be one of the coolest feelings ever is to like see it on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, like them scoring a touchdown or like an interception and the camera zooming in. That must be wild.
Dude, I'm so blessed to live in 2020 because every Sunday, like if I have stuff working, I'll just go on Getty Images and just type in the guy's name, and I'm like, "There's a picture. There's a picture." Like
And it's cool.
incredible.
I'll give credit to Getty. That's no issue.
Oh, for sure. I'll leave the watermark right in there. I don't care, man. Like for sure. Yeah.
So let me ask a question on the actual design, right? Because it's not only like a physical labor of the art, but the
hmm
design work. Do you come up with
hmm
the designs or do they?
Well, it's usually pretty collaborative. Some of them are super down to like some of them have even like sent me little sketches before, which I think is the
Oh,
best ever.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's super dope. Some of them are just like I want sort of something like this, and then I'll send them like a Photoshop mock-up, and they go, yeah, that's fine. And then like I'll just kind of send them like progress pictures throughout the week or whatever. But usually it's pretty much me, kind of just like getting what they want and then sending them a bunch of ideas and then them bouncing back. Um, but what's nice is that now I just have a folder stocked full of them, so it's like it gets less and less work every time technically. So
Have you thought about doing like other industries? You mentioned like NCAA basketball and other things like that. Like, is this something that you want to pursue? It sounds like you're still super passionate about footwear design as a career, let
yeah,
alone like customization.
I mean, footwear design is definitely what I want to do. It's just always been my passion, and then just like customizing is just something that like I really enjoy spending time on. And I feel like you'll probably relate to this, but like every creative has like this project they're working on the side, sort of this. It's just
Yeah.
something to scratch the creative itch. So I mean, it's something I like to do, and I get to do it at a high level, so I'm super blessed to do that. But I mean, I don't by any means think I could be a mosh or someone who turns it into a lifestyle, man. Those guys grind super hard, like super hard. And so I just don't think I could do that. Um, but like I have worked in other industries with the customizing. Like I've worked with some guys on North Carolina's basketball team, which was fun for me because I grew up being a fan, obviously. I've worked with a couple guys in the MLB and guys
Cool.
who play college baseball. So it's just whoever comes, man. I'm always down to try whatever. I'm gonna start working on a motorcycle helmet pretty soon. That'll be fun.
Nice.
But
Have you
yeah, I'm just
ever
kind of down for whatever, man.
have you ever randomly like cold DM'd like a player and been like, "Hey, check out."
Oh, dude, I wish I could screen share with you right now because like my business Instagram is just like the same message like, "Hey man, I'm Mike. I paint shoes. Please buy my stuff." And it's just like millions of them, bro. Just like I got one XFL player last year and then I DM'd every single player in the league because there like wasn't that many. So I was just like, I'll DM all of them. Like
I
every
love
single one. I
that.
don't care. And then I get in trouble with Instagram like almost every other day with like you've DM'd too many people today. You seem like a bot. And I'm like, great,
Wait,
fantastic.
that's a
Like,
thing?
yeah, bro, because I'll send like 150 DMs in one day sometimes. Like just
For
like
everybody
scroll.
listening, for everybody listening, that is what it takes. 150
Dude,
DMs a day. For the people
every
who
day.
don't even want to send 10 a day, fucking
You just gotta
suck it
type
up.
it once. You just gotta type it once. Just copy and
That's
paste.
that is
Just don't
wild.
forget to change the name at the bottom.
Dude, yeah, then you're that's like sending like on a dating app like the same message over and over with the wrong girl's name.
Yo, yo, I think I've definitely sent a cover letter with the wrong company on it before, and I was just super
Oh,
bummed about
yeah,
that.
that's the worst. That's like the definitely
Yeah,
the worst.
and you can't recover from that. You can't email them and be like, "Hey, sorry, I did that." Like,
Yeah, that's on me.
I understand. I will take this loss. Yeah,
Yeah. On to the next.
yeah, for real, man.
That's crazy though. But yeah, no, one out of every, 150, and then, hopefully they ride with it. And then again, it's organic, it's word of mouth, it's building those relationships. It's crazy how, that the one kid you went to college with was really the plug.
Dude, yeah, he's been huge for me. Like he's referred me to, I mean, obviously I started with him and then he referred me to Sean and then he referred me to Micah and then Levi just came organically because three guys on his team are doing it obviously. But
Yeah.
like if not for him, who knows? That's why our conversation works a little differently. Like I get that, but like it is, it's tough, but it's definitely something like I really enjoy doing and I don't mind doing the hustle for it. Like I'll send however many DMs. Like I really don't care. Like that's how I started in footwear too. Like, like I was like you mentioned, I was one of the first guys to just like reach out to you. Like I meant I messaged you, I messaged Dom, I messaged Chris Dixon, Mark Dolce when he was at Nike, Evan Locke when he was at Nike, and then he moved to Under Armour. Who else? Eric Sandy still at Jordan. Uh, Justin Taylor still at Jordan, like all those dudes. Like I'll tag them in however many posts. I'll email them. Like if you get annoyed with me, that's fine. But like you're still gonna know. Like when my application comes across, you're gonna be like, oh, I've seen that guy's name a billion times. Like,
Dude, your name's your name, and you don't have like a normal last name, I'll say. So like it's probably
yeah,
recognizable. Same thing for myself. I think that's a massive
yeah.
benefit because people with generic names, like you're at a disadvantage, 1,000%.
That yeah, man. Either like that's why I have like you got to do what you got to do. Like both industries, I found like you customizing and footwear design, like it's a hustle. Like you can get a degree in industrial design, but that doesn't do you anything but put you on the field. Like you still have to get your playing time. So like you got to run for it, man. And it's like if you're afraid to like step on people's toes or annoy someone with your DMs, like how are you going to make it through a critique or something? Like you got to have thick skin. If you're going to annoy someone, it is what it is. But at least you're doing it for a passionate reason. You're just
Yeah, like,
chasing the dream.
you're
You gotta
trying to
you gotta
pursue
do what you gotta do.
your career that you love. I mean, like, I don't
It
know.
is, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I like it. That's like when I talk to some of the NFL guys about footwear design, and then like they're like, oh, you're getting super passionate talking about it. I'm like, man, it's just like if we were playing pickup out here, and you guys were like, one of you was trying to show up the other guy. same thing for us out here, you know, like it's no different. It's a small industry and everyone knows each other, you know? So,
Yeah, that's super true.
mhm.
So what's like next for you? Like, what do you like? Do you think about the future and kind of like what other goals are besides like maybe landing a full time gig eventually? You know, if Corona land settles down and people start picking
Um,
jobs back up.
I don't know, man. On one hand, yeah, I do think of other stuff. On the other hand, I sometimes feel like having a plan B is just like an out for not making it work. So like I kind of just am chasing the footwear thing still. I'm working on like doing some um stuff with some people that I know where we're like hand making some pairs. Kind of gonna go into production to make our own stuff on the side. Um, just see what kind of traction we can get. I'm working with an NBA guy right now. We're making some lifestyle shoes. So that'll be interesting to see how that comes out with a brand because it'll just be him and I. So
Cool.
be really interesting to see what kind of traction we get there. But I don't know, man. Just want to make dope stuff, honestly.
I mean,
Like that's it, really.
that's pretty clear cut of a of a goal. Um, cool. I mean, I only had a couple bullets like written down. I figured the conversation definitely carried itself for the majority of this. Do you have anything else that you want to leave the people with? We've been chat. I know we got a late start, but we've been chatting for almost an hour now.
Uh, Not really, man. I mean, I just think right now, one thing I would say to everybody is like, just give yourself a break a little bit. You know, it's tough out there. We're working on, especially like you know how the contract life is and stuff. Like, it's hit and miss, and right now it's a lot of misses. But just hang in there, and everything will get better. But give yourself a chance. Take it easy on yourself. Just
Definitely.
hang in there and,
Have you
and be
found
positive.
have you found within yourself that you're working harder or working, just smarter, I guess, during COVID?
Probably both, honestly. I think I'm working smarter in the sense that like when I'm working too hard, I'm like, give it a break, we're not being productive anymore. But in another sense, like it's a grind right now and like everyone's unemployed, so it's tough. So I would say that I'm probably like working in terms of like actively doing design stuff more often. Um, but working smarter in the sense that like not overdoing it and making it to a point where it's procedural and not a passionate thing.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. Cool, man. I don't really have anything else scripted. This was awesome. What a crazy journey from literally getting hit in the head with a
Yeah,
disc
man.
on a rainy day to customizing cleats for Micah Hyde. I mean, that is a wild spectrum.
Yeah, bro. Hey, you got to get redirected somehow.
Definitely. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on board. Episode 12 of An Untold Narrative. Appreciate it. I'll put your. Do you have a website?
I do.
What is it?
It is www.sturge, STURGEM.com.
Cool. We'll plug that down there. Obviously, you're fairly active on Instagram, so people would check out your footwear designs there. Your posts about NFL players and stuff like that. So
For sure.
cool. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk super soon.
Yeah, man. Take it easy.